Hi, welcome everyone. I'm Dick Deming. I'm Medical Director of Mercy One Cancer Center. I'm the founder of Above and Beyond Cancer. Welcome to our weekly cancer education series. It's brought to you in part by a grant from the Rosalie and Sherry Exline Ziegler Fund. And tonight we're going to be talking about music therapy. We might even be doing a bit of music.
Sounds like it.
Yeah. So my guest is Madi Pote, and Madi is an Iowan. Grew up here in Des Moines. Went to Roosevelt, Rough Rider.
That's right.
And then to Wartburg.
Yes.
What's the mascot at Wartburg?
That's a great question. I just blinked on it.
Okay.
Once you're out of college so long,
Okay.
The Knights.
The Knights. Okay. The Knights of Wartburg. And Madi majored in music, and then she became a music therapist. So we're going to learn tonight about, what is a music therapist? What is music therapy? What is music as therapy? And we might even make a little music.
Mm-hmm.
So Madi, when did you realize in your life that music brought you joy, that music was just something that was absolutely going to be part of your life?
As long as I can remember, honestly.
Really?
I have been playing instruments or singing forever. I have a very musical family. None of them, I have a few that play guitar, but mostly everybody just enjoys music and singing. And
Okay. Did mom or dad play a musical instrument?
they both sang in choir.
Okay.
So, and then my brother also played in or sang in choir, but none of them really ever played an instrument for a long period of time.
So do you remember when was the first time you had an instrument that
I started playing violin?
Voice.
I started playing violin in 4th grade.
Okay.
And I played violin for about 10 years until I went to college to be a music therapist. So I kind of set it aside for other priorities at that time.
So, but as a violinist, did you also, did you take piano lessons as a kid?
No, I didn't take piano lessons until the summer before college. Yep. I played violin starting in 4th grade. And then in 5th grade, I played the trombone for a little bit. I'm not sure who let me play the trombone because I have really short arms. It was a bad decision. And then they switched me to the French horn because I was already in choirs, and playing the French horn takes a lot of breath support.
Okay.
And then in middle school, you had to decide between band or orchestra at that point. So I chose orchestra because we were paying for a violin.
Okay. And then did you kind of always know you would go into a career that included music?
I always knew I'd go into a career that involved helping people. It wasn't until I found music therapy. And before that, I thought maybe I'll double major in music and psychology and kind of create what then I found to be music therapy, an actual career. So it probably wasn't until I was older that I realized I'm really invested in music and want it to be a part of my life. And at that point, I kind of decided I wanted it to either be part of my career or be an active hobby in my life. And so I chose it to be my career, but it's also fun.
Yeah. So tell us about music therapy as a career. First of all, what's the training that is required to become a music therapist?
So to become a music therapist, you have to have a bachelor's of music in music therapy. Some programs are a Bachelor of Science in music therapy. And so it's an actual major in schools. And so you complete 4 years, and you have to have at least the bachelor's degree, but you can go on to have a master's as well. And then after you finished your 4 years in school, you complete a 6-month internship. It's about 1,200 clinical hours. And then you can sit for a board exam.
And who is that? What's the organizing?
The American Music Therapy Association. Okay. Yes. Okay. And then we also have a CBMT, which is the Certification Board of Music Therapists. Okay. So after you have finished all of your clinical training hours, you take your exam, and that's through CBMT. And then once you have passed your exam, you have to complete 100 continuing ed credits over the course of 5 years to continue your certification.
And in the state of Iowa, is there also a licensing process?
I wish. We're working on it. Okay. So we have.
So right now, the state of Iowa doesn't license you as
correct, which is part of the reason it's not reimbursed. So we currently have title protection in Iowa, which has been, a hard thing to get on its own. So basically that just protects us as music therapists. So somebody who's going into somewhere and playing music for fun, live music, kind of like the story we were sharing earlier, can't call themselves board certified music therapists, which is nice. It's a step in the right direction. Obviously, we hope for licensure.
Yeah.
One year,
And so let's talk a little bit more about music therapists. So it's not just a musician who might be playing in the lobby of a hospital on the piano or be playing at the end of the hallway.
That's recreational.
That's recreational music. Yes. And so in your training, besides being an accomplished musician, what is the training for the therapy part?
Yeah, there are a lot of courses in the psychology department and the social work department. There are counseling psychology courses. There are courses in the science department all over the place that you take so that you feel accomplished enough to be working one-on-one or in group situations. And then whatever you choose in your continuing ed credits can differ. So I prefer to take courses that are more about therapeutic skills, verbal skills, something that's going to help me more in the talk therapy side with music. Often in music therapy, it's viewed as, oh, they're here to play music, which is great, right? But in music therapy, I always define it as I use the music as the medium to do the therapy.
Right.
Whether it's instrument play or lyric analysis or songwriting.
So I tell my patients it's a form of counseling, and that a music therapist is a counselor who incorporates music in the counseling session, as opposed to a musician who, we can get therapeutic benefit from listening to music.
Of course.
But the music therapist is actually a counselor that incorporates music.
Yes. And that's similar to kind of how music therapy is working in the Cancer Center, is very much a counseling feel and atmosphere. And I use the music as the therapeutic medium to really prompt the discussions we have, the emotions they're expressing, things like that.
So music provides such a sense of joy and healing. Give us a feel for how you do the counseling and incorporate the music. Do you often start with the music just to set the tone or the mood, or is it usually one-on-one when you do a music therapy session, or is it usually a group setting, or can it
really
be either?
Depends on who you're working with. At the Cancer Center, we have one-on-one sessions on Monday afternoons, but recently I started doing a music therapy support group. And that's new. They'd asked me to sit in with the Living with Cancer support group, and it went really well. They told me take up as much time as you want. And 40 minutes into the group, we had only done one intervention so far. So we just kept going, and it was great. So I started doing a group. So I do individuals, I do groups, small groups. It just kind of depends on who you're working with. And then as far as what I start with, again, it depends on who I'm working with. If I know the general goals that I'm working with a group, then I usually will start with kind of like an opening song to kind of assess, what am I working with today? How are they feeling? Are they already exhausted, having an awful day, had bad news? Or are they feeling amazing? Are we more isolated and quiet? Are we really expressive today? And then I usually, in my one-on-one individual sessions, I usually kind of ask them like a recap. What's the last week looked like? How are we doing? What are we feeling? So I know what type of song I'm utilizing. And depending on its theme and whatnot, is this something that's going to relate to them? And so I really pick the music based off of what are they telling me? What do we need to be doing? Do we need to express something? Do we need to work on relaxation? Do they have a huge music past and maybe want to write a song? So it just kind of depends on what they're telling me. I assess that and then evaluate what kind of treatment we're going to do today. So.
And back to the training, I think you shared with me that in order to become a music therapist, you have to be accomplished in piano, guitar, and vocals.
Yes, that is true.
Yes. So not only do you learn the counseling skills, but you have to be competent in those three instruments, the voice, the piano, and the guitar.
Yeah, and we have multiple courses in music. Of course, it's music and therapy. So there are music theory classes, music history courses, music therapy classes themselves to talk about the actual music therapy that we're doing, along with practicums that we'll do in addition to our coursework. So,
talk a little bit about music in terms of, the chords or the notes. So what I'm getting at is I'm told that, well, we can all experience it. Whether we're listening to music in our living room or we're listening to music as we're working out, there's certain music that just, excites us and helps drive us through a workout. And there's music that can be melancholy and, touch, bring tears. And if you go to a Broadway musical, I mean, there's always the big ballad that they get to sing that just the notes and the chords almost make you cry. And there must be something scientific about certain chord structures or minor notes or something that elicits feelings. Is that something you learn about?
Yeah, we learn about how, different keys and structures and chord patterns can elicit different things. How you intertwine an E minor, an A minor, a B minor chord into a major chord structure can alter how the song sounds. So if I'm doing like original songwriting with patients, I always have them pick the chord structure because the way they hear the song based off of the words they wrote is different from how I might hear it. And how I might hear it doesn't matter. It's how they hear it because it's their song. And often it's funny. They'll be like, you pick it or you pick the melody. And I'll improvise things willingly, but there are different structures of how you include C, D, E, F, G, A, B. And if it's a minor chord or a sharp chord to elicit different things. And with that, the music just really accesses our brain in different ways than just speech, which is a big reason music therapy can work. And the fact that it's almost always live music. And so you have to know a lot of songs, or if you don't, you have to be able to learn new songs and pick up on new songs and find a therapeutic way to use it with your patients.
Maybe share with us a little bit of the science about, let's say someone is having a down day and your shared goal is to try to help relieve some feelings of sadness, to bring lightness to their life.
Yeah. So in music therapy, we have something called an ISO principle. So depending on, most of the time, if somebody's sad or having feelings of depression, they want to leave not down here, right? You want to feel at least more content, right? We don't have to go from I'm really upset and crying to I'm as happy as can be. But having them feel like they're at a healthy level with their emotions. And so I like to meet people where they're at. Most often, we can't just be really sad and have somebody walking in singing happy, which is a popular song or some kind of feel good music. If we hear that and we're feeling sad, most often, what's our reaction? I don't want to hear that right now. So I like to meet people where they're at. And then over a progression period of time, it's either increasing the tempo of the music, or if we're using actual songs that they like, it's picking, here's a song that they prefer that fits this mood more. And then I'm going to play another song that's moving up those levels so that eventually we're expressing different emotions. We're talking about these things and it's allowing them to talk about those sad emotions. In my opinion, we can't feel better unless we express that sad anger emotion. It's important to me to have my patients express those things and kind of get those weight off their shoulders and then move forward from there as well. So sometimes it happens within one song. And so because it's live music, I can play something like Eye of the Tiger, but much slower. Remove a lot of the stimulation from the song so that it fits where they're at right then. By the end of the song, it might be back to the original upbeat, fast song.
And how about the use of music therapy, counseling with music in helping the grieving process? I mean, I think of sometimes early in the grieving, I mean, the absolute what's needed is shedding tears and really, I mean, truly wallowing in one's grief early
I
on. That
agree.
is absolutely a part of the grieving. I mean,
Agree.
3-4 years into the grief after the
Yes.
death, that's not appropriate. But I can see, I mean, I just think of my own experience with music, and whether it's listening to music or in a musical, and just the cathartic sense of a positive feeling you get out of just crying over a grieving moment, whether it's, this artificial thing that
Yeah.
on Les Mis, she just dies, and
Right. Something triggers it.
yes,
And it's
but
that release of emotions.
so is that an intervention that is used with with
There are a
grieving?
variety of interventions that you can use
Okay.
with someone who's grieved. So in addition to the Cancer Center, I also work with hospice. So I deal with grief almost every single day with patients. Um, I often have patients who cry, and it happens. And a lot of times people are almost embarrassed when they're crying. They want to hide it, they want to cover it up. And I tell people, it's okay to cry. It's a healthy thing that our body is meant to do. And whether what you're crying about right now is related to why you're crying, your body had to let it out. Something allowed you to feel safe enough that you could cry. Because how often are we in public and we feel like we're going to cry and we go hide? We go to the bathroom. We tell ourselves to shut it off so that we don't cry. But it's nice to create that safe environment so somebody feels comfortable crying, and to get them, not that I want them to cry, that's not the point of me working on expressing their emotions so that they do cry, but it's so that they express whatever emotions they're having. So that could be a goal, is emotional expression, and that can happen through instrument play. That can happen through improvisation, whether it's vocal improvisation or instrumental improvisation. That can happen through lyric analysis and analyzing a specific song related to what they're going through, and then talking about, how does this relate to me? What kind of memories does this trigger? It can happen through songwriting. It can really happen no matter how I'm using the music. It's just how the conversation sways with it, how the words work with it, and what kind of triggers that response from them. It's important to have something that they prefer and something that's related to what they're going on, or they can at least relate to. Not every song out there might talk about a relationship, but the words in that song remind you about, it could be a relationship with someone during your journey, but reminds you about something else that you're going through in your journey. A lot of situations in life come down to the same emotions: happy, anger, frustration, depression, anxiety. They lead to the same things. It's just what kind of situation causes those emotions to happen.
So, as a music therapist, obviously you're focusing on an intervention that is desired to have some outcome in the patient. So, you're using your counseling skills, and you have to be paying attention and, emotional intelligence, but you also have to be, musically proficient doing this technically difficult thing. Do you, is that just, you're so proficient at the music that just kind of comes naturally, and you're focusing intellectually more on the counseling aspect, or how do you integrate the two
It's
as
easier
a
if you know what
therapist?
you're playing.
Okay.
It's easier. I mean, there are moments where you're not as familiar with the song, especially
Okay.
if someone really enjoys a song or its style of music that you're not as proficient in. That happens. And so it's more over the years of playing a specific instrument, or especially playing with people you haven't met, being thrown into situations where you don't know what to expect. Me personally, I feel like I just kind of get used to it. The training has helped you be able to learn how to play the instrument, do the singing, do the therapy, to the point that it's really natural to be doing all the same things. Kind of like if you're learning a piano, to someone, it might be really difficult to coordinate these two hands. But once you have it down, you have it down. And so it's kind of the same way that even if I'm not as proficient in a song that someone might enjoy, you learn to do both things at the same time, and it becomes natural for most of us.
Do you sometimes choose music to kind of change the mood? I would imagine that, if you're a therapist and your only tool is talking, and you're in a room and you're talking is your only tool, I guess silence is an option that is used sometimes.
Yeah.
But the ability to sort of shift gears a bit by just starting to play something and can either be calming or change the mood in the room. And
yeah, that can happen. Sometimes it's almost too abrupt if, like I was mentioning earlier, if somebody's feeling really somber or even just sleepy or something, to then play an entirely different song that emotes a different feel for someone. So sometimes that's almost too abrupt. So sometimes it's nice to kind of lean into it, but you can definitely play something that's not necessarily fitting the emotion they're currently in to start altering what they're feeling, or kind of creating that environment of joy or safety, so that hopefully they attach onto it, especially if you're in a group environment and some of your group is in a great mood, open to sharing. And then obviously there's always group members that are more quiet and reserved. And so sometimes creating that environment then allows these other individuals that are more quiet to start speaking up, sharing, especially if they see the other individuals already expressing what they're thinking and relate to.
And in a music therapy, to what extent is the participation of the individuals that are being counseling? I mean, talking about the participation in terms of music, either through percussion or singing or other instruments, because I know sometimes you hand out ukuleles and
yes, or egg shakers or drums or I have a whole bag in my trunk that's all the instruments. There's tambourines, rhythm sticks, chiquitas, hand drums, an ocean drum, a rain stick.
And would you say most of the time when you're doing music therapy with individuals or groups that part of that session is having the subject participate in making of music?
It just depends on what kind of group of people I'm working with. If I'm doing something that's more kind of mental health focused, there's not always instruments actively being used, because a lot of times lyric analysis and songwriting are some of the most popular interventions or most utilized with something that's more mental health focused, which obviously with cancer comes, right? How we're feeling about ourselves, what we're thinking, the grief that comes with it. That's a huge component. You can definitely use instruments. So improvisation is a great thing to utilize. I have a patient right now who's writing their own individual song, and they play an instrument themselves as well. So they have written the lyrics, they've decided the chord structure, they've decided the melody, and now they want to learn it on their own personal instrument so that they can utilize it and generalize what they've learned in music therapy back at home.
Okay. So Madi is a music therapist again, and she is at the Mercy One Richard Deming Cancer Center providing counseling, music therapy services to our patients. And a couple of different settings is that we have a Living with Cancer support group for patients who have incurable cancer, treatable but incurable. And you were invited in to be part of that group. Maybe share a little bit about, first of all, what did you think before you walked into the room, knowing this is a Living with Cancer group, a group of individuals that have incurable cancer? What was your expectation? And then share with us a little bit about how you approached it and what the result was.
So I anticipated that there was more than likely going to be a lot of individuals who probably had a lot of emotions to express, because it's incurable. There's a lot of grief that you mentioned with that. It's a different grief than what we anticipate when we say the word grief, that or having difficulties with relationships or how to kind of learn to love themselves again.
Yeah, and the grief with a group with Living with Cancer, it's kind of this anticipatory grief.
Yes.
You're sort of already grieving the future that you're going to miss, as opposed to, I just lost my wife yesterday and I'm grieving the loss of someone. It's kind of this anticipatory grief, but there's a lot of similarity.
Yes, there's a lot of similarities. And so I anticipated some things like that to take place, which is what took place. I knew that it was a support group that primarily just kind of had discussions with one another. So I wanted to be able to do something that prompted that discussion to take place more. And so we did some songs that ultimately talked a lot about self-love and mantras, creating mantras, positive self-talk for one another, because it's a difficult journey. And I had met some of those individuals previously in one-on-ones or in other groups that I'd sat in on. So it was nice to have some of that rapport with the individuals. And so we went through a lyric analysis, and that's the part that took 40 minutes, which is unheard of, honestly.
So who chose the song that you were going to analyze the lyrics?
I brought in predetermined options that I've done with other groups as well, but that I knew would kind of elicit that sort of message, knowing that they're going to relate. Even if they don't know this song, they are going to relate to the overall message that the song is giving out. And what's funny is it was called Broken and Beautiful is what the song is called.
Could you play it for us now?
Sure.
Yeah. So we've got Maddie's guitar here. So we'll listen to this and get a feel for how this session started.
Get her pulled up. Would you like me to play the whole thing or just part of it?
I'll leave that up to you. I don't know how long it is. If it's more than an hour long, we can't do the whole song.
Don't worry, I won't be taking up that much time with one song. Never held my hand out and asked for something free. I got pride I could roll out for miles in front of me. I don't need your help and I don't need sympathy. I don't need you to lower the bar for me. I know I'm superwoman, I know I'm strong. I know I've got this 'cause I've had it all along. I'm phenomenal and I'm enough. I don't need you to tell me who to be. Can someone just hold me? Don't fix me. Don't try to change a thing. Can someone just know me? 'Cause underneath I'm broken and it's beautiful. 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 And I'll stop there. Wow. That's the first half of the song.
Yeah. Well, number one, your playing and singing is beautiful.
Well, thank you.
So this song, was this a song that was popular? Was this a song written for music therapy? Was it something?
No, it was just a popular song. It was actually in the movie called Ugly Dolls.
Oh, okay.
Kelly Clarkson sings it in the movie. So some individuals know it. Some individuals don't know it. And same
it seemed so perfect for a counseling session. I thought, okay, did a music therapist write this song?
I got a whole playlist on here of songs that are great for sessions.
Wow. Yeah. And so they really wanted to dig into the lyrics.
They did. We spent almost 40 minutes analyzing this song last night. And there were about 10 or 12 individuals, I think, there that night. And so I would say about 85% of the group was actively participating and sharing the phrases. And, you know, somebody would state something like, I'm broken and it's beautiful. And they would share, you know, how they related to that phrase. And then it would prompt somebody else's discussion. And with this song specifically, usually the first thing I like to ask is, does anyone in here not relate to the word beautiful? Because it's one of those words that some people are like, they don't like, or if there's a lot of men in the group, a lot of times men don't relate to the word beautiful. And so I like to talk about what are the other words that we can replace with that. So it's I'm okay and it's beautiful, or I'm broken and it's okay. I'm broken and was someone who threw out it's ugly because of their cancer journey and how it's been. I'm broken and I was trying to think of what's something else somebody would throw out there. I'm broken and it's. Anybody got an idea? And it's okay. Is that what you said? Yeah.
And it sucks.
And I'm loving it. Yeah, and it sucks. That's a perfect one.
Yeah, I'm broken and it sucks.
I'm broken and it sucks. Yes, I think that was one that came up that night.
So that was with the Living with Cancer group, and so that song started it, and then everybody really got into the lyrics and maybe discussing it and adding some own lyrics. And it reminds me that, you can also use poetry as a healing process. I don't know yet that we have a board certified poet therapist, but
yeah, I don't know if that's I don't know enough about poetry to know what is and isn't.
I don't know that there is a poet therapist, but just the idea of using the creative process in a way that can be therapeutic.
Yes, definitely. Well, and so many songs start as poems as well. So
yeah. How about do you ever do just the instrumental, using your knowledge of what chords and majors and minors and structures bring out certain emotions?
Yeah, there are a lot of different things you can do just instrumentally, which is really nice to bring the instruments in if someone doesn't know how to express what they're going through, or if they don't feel comfortable verbally sharing how they feel about something, that taking the instruments and providing kind of like a base for someone, whether it's on the guitar or on the piano, and providing something that's just constant so that when they're improvising over it, they have all the freedom to play anything they want. So sometimes it could be something like I've done with groups where we build a thunderstorm, which is kind of fun. So I bring different instruments for that. And so it allows someone to pick whatever instrument that they match with. A lot of times someone who's picking a drum is loud, outspoken, or has a lot to say or a lot of aggression to get out, so they can pound on that drum as much as they want. But there are other instruments that you can utilize that when you provide that bass, they can play something melodic is really nice to allow someone to have, because there are those different tones, those minor chords, those sharp notes that they can play that'll match, or if somebody's feeling anxious about something and you play two notes right next to each other on the piano, it's dissonant. It doesn't sound right. And sometimes that matches that like anxious, I don't know what to do next kind of feeling that we'll have. So a lot of times instrument improvisation on melodic instruments is great because it just accesses more of those emotions, and we can pick those notes that match what we feel. And I can't say what that note would be, only because I don't know how they're feeling, so it's nice for them to explore.
But somebody who doesn't have knowledge of music or notes, I mean, it
can be hard sometimes, but I like to tell them it's okay to play anything. Nothing is wrong.
Right.
Nothing's going to be wrong. And it's okay to take the time to figure out, what notes do I like the sound of on this? Whether it's a xylophone or a piano, it's just something that's melodic, that has the variety. But it's okay to, play around and figure out those options. And it doesn't have to be, this is what I feel right now. It's more exploring the sounds here and then kind of figuring out what sounds right, what doesn't sound right, or if they're using something not melodic, like a drum. We all know if we tap quietly, that does not necessarily equal frustration, anger, those louder emotions. If somebody's pounding on a drum, they're either having a lot of fun or they have a lot to say. There's more emotions going on behind that pounding on the drum.
So in a group, so I've heard that there's therapeutic benefit to synchronized activity of a group. And so that's part of the military marching with your comrades. It develops this sense of unity and being part of something bigger than oneself, or a rowing crew that's, in sync with rowing. And I wonder whether in a group situation, like a percussion or getting people in sync with doing something, is that ever a strategy? And what do you
So
think
like
about
group
that?
cohesion, I've used that as a goal before with different groups. And so the way that I've done it is I like to use adaptive guitar techniques. You can also use different instruments or boom whackers. I don't know if you know what a boom whacker
I
is.
do not know
I
what
don't
a
have
boom
any with
whacker.
me today, but they are like long tubes, and they match C, D, E, F, G, A, B. So you can play like the
And you
chord.
just bang them on something?
Yeah, you can bang them on a table, on the
I see,
ground.
but
You can bang
they
them
always have the
together.
same note.
Yeah, so they're a color and they match instruments on the piano. But I've done it with guitars before. And so I usually will utilize open guitar tuning on a guitar, and you can tune it to like a G chord. So one guitar might be a G, one might be a D, one might be a C. And so then we usually pick a song that somebody's going to know, the group is familiar with. It could be something simple like You Are My Sunshine. It can be a popular song, something they know and that they are interested in. And so within that group cohesion goal, they are actively working together to build this song as a group. And so what's nice about it is that you can just strum the guitar. You don't have to know how to make a G chord on the guitar or anything. You can just open strum. So all you have to be able to do is open strum. If you don't have use of your upper extremities, there are different adaptive techniques that I've used over the time that allow that assistance, or there's large adaptive picks that people can use if they have sensitive skin on their fingertips. And so as a group, you have to be able to work together. You have to stay on beat. You have to be listening to the individuals before you. You have to remember, am I strumming 3 times? Am I strumming 4 times? How fast am I going? And so sometimes it doesn't work right away the first time, right? But what in life does? And that's okay. And that's usually one of the lessons that comes apart in the group is, okay, so what are the things that we noticed that allowed us to work better together? And what are the things that caused it to be more difficult? So using that experience within the music to then come back to the therapy about how does this relate to every day? What things did we utilize in here that we practiced? That are things we need to utilize and practice in real life without the music present.
Let's switch gears a little bit and talk about a one-on-one therapy session. Mm-hmm. So at our cancer center, patients can sign up to have a one-on-one session with you. And when patients do that, I don't usually say ahead of time, and we don't write it down, what is it that you want to work on?
Right.
They may not actually know when they agree.
Sometimes they don't know when they come to see me either.
So how does that one-on-one work? How do you begin the conversation with someone when you sit down with them one-on-one, a patient you've never met?
I usually ask them to share as much about their journey as they are willing to share with me. At that point, I'm a stranger. They don't know me. So I'm aware that they might not tell me everything, and that's okay. I don't expect them to be open and honest right off the bat. I expect them to share, why are they here? I always ask, what is something that you may be struggling with, or what is something that you are actively trying to work on, or why do you think that you were referred to come to music therapy? For some people, it's just they have a good music background and they're looking for another type of therapy to kind of continue their treatment and help them along their treatment. For some, they don't know why they got referred. So we're kind of figuring it out, And with that, it's more, what are the things you're struggling with? What is going on in your life in addition to cancer that causes, the coping mechanisms, things like that you think are relevant to hear. Sometimes I ask, what do you want out of music therapy? If they have a sense of what direction they want to go. So it's always kind of assessing first, what do they think? What do they want?
Why don't you share with us with your guitar, just sort of remember a particular session you had with a patient and maybe just try to recreate a bit of it.
Okay. Let's see, what did I do with? So I did use the song that I have up here.
Okay.
I actually used this within the last couple weeks with a patient. And so this individual, let's see, we did the song called Dear Me, and it talks a lot about your future self, giving you a message. And so this individual is having a really hard time just kind of loving who they are right now. There have been multiple traumas in their family, whether it's just cancer, but also additional traumas. And so they're having a hard time just feeling comfortable in their own skin and figuring out what do they want in the future and making decisions right now that have a hard time committing to. And so kind of figuring out what do they want through the future, and let's work backwards from that future. What are the decisions we have to make? What are the pros and cons that come with making decisions so we know where to move in the future? So I have some words up here. I'll need all of your help here in a bit that are out here. I will play a portion of the song first so we know what it sounds like. Dear me, you'll be older one day, writing from the future, and you're doing okay. I said now, dear me, hold on to what you've got. Things are gonna change, but change is better than you thought. And then at some point in the song, it talks about don't know who you are, don't know who you are, don't know who you are, but I know you're trying. So when I've used this song with individuals before, we analyze it. We do a lyric analysis first to see what kind of message are they getting from the song, what theme did they pick up on, what do they relate to, and talking about those relations as well. But then we usually go into a little songwriting. So this is a very simple songwriting. It's really a fill in the blank songwriting. It's a step up because it's not Mad Lib style. So in a Mad Lib, if you've ever done one, it kind of gives you an idea of what to fill in the blank, whether it's an emotion. If it's a funny Mad Lib, it might be about food or something you enjoy doing. But so in this one, they have the opportunity to say, dear me, you'll be whatever. If it's their future self kind of telling them you'll be okay. Their future self telling them you'll be better than you think you'll be. It kind of depends on what somebody fills it in with. And then I'm writing from the future and you're doing blank. Dear me, hold on to blank. Things are going to change, but change is blank. And then sometimes there's a little bit more of the song. We just have this small section tonight. And then I always tell people, if you need to change the pre-written words to make your message make sense, you have full access to change whatever you need to. I don't want the words I've given them to alter what they want written down, you know? So if you have to, things are going to change, but change, I don't know, whatever word you might change in there. You know, so I'm writing from the future and sometimes people will change that aspect. When I did this one with someone and the next part that says, don't know who you are, don't know who you are, don't know who you are, but I know you're trying, don't know who you are, don't know who you are, don't know who you are, but I'm not dying is what they filled that in. And I really liked that change. And that was one where they removed the typed words on their sheet and changed it because it was something that then fit how they felt that day. Mm-hmm. So I thought maybe we could have
we
some
have a
people
live
fill
studio
it in.
audience here.
Yeah.
So and we're doing this with the music or without the music, or do you do it more of a just?
I leave it up to the individual.
Okay.
Some, depending on the size of the group and kind of who I'm working with, some people prefer to just read their responses, or they prefer that I just sing their responses. The option I like to have people choose if they don't like to sing. If they like to sing, they can do the whole thing themselves if they want. But usually what I'll do is I'll sing the typed words and then ask them to fill in the blank with their response. If they choose to sing the response, they can sing it. Most people don't want to.
Okay.
So I always say,
And do you
I'll
do one
sing
at
it.
a time, or do you do the first one and then everybody just throws out the word?
I usually do one individual at a time. It's
Okay.
what do we prefer out here? Do you all want to throw out your response at the same time? Is there anybody who's like, heck no, I don't want to do this at all? You
Okay.
don't have to have music skills. I love that somebody said that. I love it. So
I think they're game.
all right. Y'all game to do it on your own? Yeah. You don't have to sing. You just have to verbally respond. Some of you have seen me before, so some of you might be less scared than the others. Okay, I'm going to move this just a little bit. Okay, so what I'm going to do, is anybody not ready? So I'm like, some of you are writing responses.
I think some of us would say we're never ready, but.
How about we start with you?
Oh, okay. Yes.
And then we're just going to work our way around
the seed
the room.
Did not part until you stepped into it. So you're never ready. Just
a little pressure is okay, right?
Yes, exactly.
A little pressure, being uncomfortable is not a bad thing.
I am just going to have to forget that there are 30 million people watching us right now.
Don't worry about them.
Okay.
So you'll just fill in the blank with your response. Dear me, you'll be
ready for it when it comes.
Right in from the future, and you're doing
better than you can ever imagine.
Dear me, hold on to
everyone you love.
Things are gonna change, but change is
inevitable.
Perfect. That's it.
Perfect.
I love it. All right, we're gonna go around the room now. Whew, pressure's off ya. Yeah. Are you ready? Dear me, you'll be I'm riding from the future, and you're dear me, hold on to things are gonna change, but changes. Beautiful. Are you going for it too? All right. That's all that matters, right? Dear me, you'll be I'm writing from the future, and you're doing dear me, hold on to things are gonna change, but changes. Awesome. Next. Dear me, you'll be riding from the future, and you're doing dear me, hold on to things are gonna change, but changes. Really okay. Really okay. Are we skipping? Oh yeah? Oh yeah? You don't want to give one line a try? No? Are you sure? Okay. Kevin? Dear me, you'll be I'm riding from the future, and you're doing dear me, hold on to things are gonna change, but changes. I like it. All right. Last but not least. Oh, I mean, we can throw you in here too.
Okay, two more.
Dear me, you'll be right in from the future, and you're doing dear me, hold on to things are gonna change, but changes. Awesome. All right. Last chance.
Okay.
Anyone else want to go?
We should get the microphone, not the hand mic.
Oh, man.
Yes. Here we go. So, George, you're next. Do you need the hand mic, George?
I don't need to go.
Why don't we take a few minutes to open up for questions?
Perfect.
Because some of the cancer survivors in the room have participated in music therapy, some have not, and we also have a virtual audience that's live streaming. So if you are watching us from your own home live streaming, you can put questions in the comment section. So we'll open it up to questions.
Well, Dr. Deming asked that one question is if people have asked for just instrumental, not with words, but I think you answered that part. But another one comes to mind, because I remember when I was going through my cancer journey, there's times I was just screaming. I love all genre of type of music. Has anyone ever requested like heavy metal?
Oh,
Like
yes.
scream, yeah.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. My voice is not wonderfully built for that. But any genre is open. You know, it's kind of like rap. You probably don't want to hear me rap, but I'm going to find ways to utilize the music in a therapeutic way to, you know, meet your preferences. A lot of the reasons it work is because it's patient preferred music. So there are different ways that I can then use music. And maybe those are one of those opportunities where I might use recorded music and still make it beneficial within the therapeutic contour.
Sounds cool. Anybody else?
Other questions?
Like in your sessions, do you have or do you do anything that's like opera or things like that's kind of fun, like things from the Music Man or from Oklahoma?
Yeah,
That?
You can use any style of music. You know, I have stuff from like Mamma Mia in here. And it's interesting you use the word fun because that's going to change from you to anybody in the room, right? So I was a voice was my main instrument in college. So I sang lots of opera music. It's rather difficult with the guitar if that's the instrument I have to accompany myself. But yeah, I've had patients where we've used opera, where we've used music from musicals. So it really comes down to what does someone prefer? Sometimes it's more about let's listen to that song if it's something I can't replicate, like music from Brazil. We've talked about that in some of my sessions before. And so sometimes it comes down to those styles are not something that can be replicated by one person very easily. And so it's more about listening to that. Maybe it's active listening and we're reminiscing about those opportunities, validating your experiences within it. Sometimes finding the instrumental versions of it and then utilizing it for relaxation strategies or other interventions.
Okay, I got one more question.
Okay.
So in a group session, you have all these different personalities that you start out with, and you alluded to, how do we pull this all together, right? Mm-hmm. Can you expand on that just a little bit more? Let's say, I'm feeling very sad, and my wife here is feeling very, very happy. Mm-hmm. And then there's someone who's more melancholy. How do you pull that all together in your group session?
That's a great question. So a lot of times if we're in a group session, it's for kind of a specific topic, right? Like living with cancer support group. A lot of times it's about the support that people need. And there are different things that are going to fall in line with that, right? Sometimes it's about relaxation, self-esteem, coping mechanisms. And so it can be difficult to work with those different personalities, especially if someone is really talkative. A lot of times those quiet individuals can almost kind of get like hidden, right? And so that happens easily. When, for example, when we did the Broken and Beautiful song in the Living with Cancer support group, after the lyric analysis, because not everybody's going to want to share in a lyric analysis, and that happens, I like to do something that's a lot more individual participation, but within the group context. So that day we created mantras, and so everybody came up with their own mantra. And within that, we did body percussion. And so as a group, we kind of decided what pattern we were all capable of playing, because that was definitely a contender, figuring out. So I think it was like something like that, simple. And, I still had some individuals that were not comfortable or knew how to do that and talk at the same time. It happens. It's okay. I like to express it's fine to not be perfect. It's fine to not know how to do something right the first time. That's natural. But so within that, gave everybody an opportunity to share their personal statements. So everybody came up with their own mantra. Some people was, it'll be okay. For some individuals, it was, tomorrow won't be as bad. It varied. But so it gave everybody the opportunity to speak out, but also gave people the opportunity to say, I'd like to pass right now. Which then creates that safe opportunity, and like we kind of mentioned, a little pressure is not a bad thing. Sometimes we need a little push to get out of our comfort zone, which some individuals said they were not comfortable doing. After the fact, they were like, that was scary. And some individuals, they would have done it 10 times, so kind of creating those opportunities where people can share as little as they feel comfortable, but also people can share as much as they feel comfortable and take up as much space as somebody's willing to take up that day.
And obviously, some of that is what you learn in counseling. I mean, that those having different people, and that's kind of classic for group therapy. How do you, as a therapist, make sure that one person doesn't run away with the group and leaving everyone else behind?
Because sometimes, you start a conversation and then it kind of goes to here and here and here, so finding that word that can bring them back to what are we currently talking about, and trying to open it up to the whole group, or maybe kind of making just simple eye contact with someone can be enough for them to feel like, oh, this is my opportunity to talk. This is my opportunity to share what I want to share, but I'm not going to unless somebody calls on me.
Well, Madi Pote, Pote, music therapist, and she is seeing patients and groups at the Mercy One Richard Deming Cancer Center. Do you have a drop-in group?
So the music therapy support group is the first Monday of every month.
Yeah, and people don't need to sign in ahead of time, and it is totally free. And what's the time of
it is from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
5 p.m. to 6 p.m. And that's on the A level, kind of the lobby level of the Cancer Center. And that's the first Monday from 5 to 6 p.m. So join us there. If you want to have an individual session, or if you happen to be living with incurable cancer, you can be part of that group as well at the Mercy One Richard Deming Cancer Center, 358-6606. And we can hook you up with Madi. We can hook you up with the group. We can hook you up with the support group. So hopefully those of you who are interested will reach out to us. Madi, thank you so much for being our guest tonight. And thanks to all of you for attending. If you know someone that would appreciate, enjoy, or find this inspirational, this podcast is going to be available on demand at the Above and Beyond Cancer YouTube channel or at the Mercy One website. So please come again and join us next week. Thanks for being here.